to a new episode of the Fortress of Filitude. In today's episode, we take an old container that was a syringe dispenser and disposal container combined, and we turn it into the Excavator Droid. So for this build, I used some 3D printed greebles. You can see here I've got the printer going. It took about 8 hours to print a small selection of, well, you can see panels and control panels and doors, vents, gratings. I have to give a big shout out to Miller Brothers Sculpting and Design. They do some 3D work, STL files that you can purchase on Gumroad. I'm going to put a link down in the show description below. Check these guys out, man. This is great stuff. This isn't even half of what was in the Greebles pack. For like $3 or less, you can just get a ton of files. Great stuff. And with 3D printing, you can scale them however you want. These are all original scale. I could get them smaller if I wanted, but I mean, no, I love the way these look. I'm going to get a lot of use out of these. And like I said, there's a lot more to it than just this. All kinds of different hatches and doorways. Great stuff. And I think there's even a free sample pack on the website that you can check out if you want to. I know I could print these in resin and they'd come out a lot smoother and look a little cleaner. But for this kind of a build, FDM printing works out just great. These guys also have more than just greebles. They've got a lot of Star Wars Legion figures, some vehicles, other sort of terrain packs that kind of go with Star Wars. Please check them out. Great stuff. You can't go wrong. And like I said, there will be a link in the notes below, so give those guys some love. Certainly appreciated this pack. Made good use out of it for this build. So this is the container. So one end you got new syringes out of, and then the top you could put the used syringes with the cap back on. This is for pets. We had a cat named Molly who was diabetic. We actually lost her the week before Halloween this past year due to kidney failure. It's pretty hard on us, pretty sad. Had this left over and decided I would hang on to it and use it in a craft project at some point rather than just throw it in the garbage. And here's a picture of Molly so you can see what she looked like. She was the sweetest cat, very smart. She was almost 17 years old, maybe a little over 17, so she had a nice long life. Very active, very energetic, and definitely with a very strong personality, which is a good thing. So the first thing I had to do is get these decals off the container. I figured I was going to make this thing some sort of big hovering droid. I was inspired by the world devastators of Star Wars lore, mainly from the expanded universe before Disney took over. I think they first appeared in the Dark Empire comic. But this was going to be a similar type thing. You can see the Stormtrooper there next to it for scale. Huge machine. So I was going to make some arms for it. I wanted some articulated arms to kind of hang off the sides. I'm going to use those caps as the sockets to hold the arms. I was kind of inspired a little bit by the probe droid with all of its multiple appendages. And I'm just going to use some old sprues and cut those up to make a couple of the arms. Cutting them at the little spots there where you've got the pegs to try and make those look kind of like ball joints once I get them all glued together. So I just chopped up a whole bunch of sprues. Ended up chopping up a lot more than I ended up using. Here's the container once I've got all the decals off. Roughed it up with some sandpaper just to get some of the leftover stickiness off. And then here's a couple of the gripper arms I have glued together. There you go. Yeah, 3 of them. I'm going to make some bigger arms. Here's a flossing pick that I cut up. There's the 2 caps. They're going to be the connecting points for the arms. I'm going to attach those with magnets. So yeah, I cut the little flosser thing in half there and use one end as a blade, the other end as sort of an arc welder, and then took another one and cut 3 of the blade-looking shapes off. I'm going to use those as grippers for like a claw. So I took some craft sticks, cut them down, I chopped them into smaller pieces. Did a whole bunch of these, really whittled them down. See, I've got a couple of little smaller pieces there and just started kind of gluing them together. I wanted to make it look like these arms were articulated, even though I was going to glue them in fixed positions. At least wanted to give the illusion that they could move and bend on different axes. To make the ball joints for each of those connecting points, I just used beads. You'll see that later on. So yeah, the concept is this is just a big industrial droid that kind of hovers around and finds scrap piles and crashed starships and old ruined cities. It just goes through and picks through the rubble, cuts things apart, and stuffs anything that can be recycled into sort of some kind of a furnace there on the bottom. It's fusion powered. It's it's Star Wars technology. Who knows how it really works? But stuff is sucked up there on the front of it, and then recycled on the inside, sorted, melted down, reforged into blocks or ingots to be retrieved later. It's kind of a droid's just sort of a utilitarian type thing. It's not real smart, doesn't develop a personality, very limited programming, but something that can easily fit into the Star Wars universe. Although you could use this with any sci-fi game. I'm going to be using it in the RPG, but you could use this in Star Wars Legion. Maybe have it randomly move across the battlefield. Maybe if it comes across a unit of figures it attacks, maybe it's just an obstacle that has to be avoided. Maybe it's an objective. You've got to capture it and reprogram it, or just destroy it before it destroys something that you're trying to protect. See, I'm just making the larger arms, gluing the beads on there to make the little joints, at least the illusion of joints, and some extra sprue here and there. At this stage it doesn't look like a whole lot, but once you get it painted up and primed and a little bit of detail on it, it comes together. And there's the gripper arm. That's just soda straw and ball bearings in the 3 pieces of the pick from the flossing pick. And here's our 3D printed panels. Just started kind of gluing those on, going around the perimeter. Started with super glue because of the size and weight, and in the surface plastic of the container itself. The super glue didn't stick real well, so later on I do switch to hot glue. No real rhyme or reason for how I'm gluing things on here. I'm just sort of filling in space. I had made some marks to kind of remind myself where I'm going to put the attachment points for the arms. I also used beads for the eyes on the recessed section there. There's a few different sizes just to kind of go off the idea of a couple of different optical sensors that it uses. Did end up painting them all up slightly different colors later once I did the entire paint job. Also spent a good deal of time peeling super glue off of my fingers, but I thankfully did not record that. So yeah, here we are just going around gluing the rest of these panels on. once I finish with the 3D printed bits, I did cut up some chipboard and some cardstock to create some additional panels to put on there, just to give it some variety on detail, so that not everything on here is a 3D printed bit or a bead. But so there you go, just some traditional materials as well. You know, considering all that has different thickness too, it does give some variety to the texture on the droid. And this is always kind of the stage where I'm looking at a project like this and I'm thinking, man, this just looks like a bunch of random junk. You know, all the different colors and just different bits glued on there. Once you get it painted and primed is when you start to really see it come together, and it starts to look like something more than just a pile of junk that's been glued together. There it is after it's been primed. Used a black spray primer, made a couple of dots there where I'm going to hot glue the magnets on. I did use a little bit of Mod Podge on some of the paper and chipboard. There's the different arms. And I cut a section out of the bottom, and I've got this little piece from a divider for like a binder. I'm going to glue in there. I actually wanted to use an LED at the bottom of this to kind of light up behind there, just to kind of give the impression of the little furnace at the bottom. So I glued that little piece of transparent plastic in there and ran an LED through a small piece of foam. And you plug the little battery in there and it lights up. That's an orange light. I ended up actually going with red, which you'll see in the final build. Thought that'd be a nice little touch. Easy to do. So then it was just a matter of painting this dude. Started with the eyes. I just did those in silver so that I could come back with sort of a dot or a circle of color around it, rather than trying to do the color and then coming back with the silver later. I went with a neutral gray. Actually took about 2 coats to get a nice even coating across the thing, but just sort of a basic drab Star Wars color. And then I used some other colors, just different varieties of gray. I think I used a midnight blue, a sky gray. There's the colored eyes, and then the yellow for like a spotlight there on the front of it. Control panel, some little details there on the back. And of course, now you've got to, well, before I forget, there's the arms. I went ahead and did a base coat on those as well. And then it's black wash time. Really make it look dirty and used and grungy. It is Star Wars, so everything has that worn look. It's not as dirty, perhaps, as if I was trying to design this purely for a grimdark game like Warhammer, but it still fits in there too if you wanted to use it. So after everything got the black wash, I kind of went in with some Vallejo texture paints. Tried some engine grime. I didn't like it too much. Then I went back with some oil stain and kind of stippled it around. And just various places where I thought it might kind of, I don't know, where you might have some liquids, some coolants or some other gunk kind of running out. Vents there, the pipes on the back. Just another extra little weathering touch. And then I went through with some silver and did some edge highlighting here and there, just to make the edges look worn, kind of emphasize that some of this, despite being painted, is still metal underneath. After I did all the edge highlighting, I did some dry brushing as well, just to kind of blend some of that silver across some of the surfaces, make it look worn, make it look, you know, like it's been weathered. then I did a dry brush of silver over the arms. A pretty simple paint job on those. And glued those on the pill bottle caps that I used as the attachment points. You know, the idea is later on, if I wanted to build different arms, I could swap them out with the magnets. Or if I wanted to weaponize it, I could swap those out with some sort of weapon pods, also on magnets, kind of like I did on my Sci Fi heavy hauler build. So there it was, painted up, everything glued together, arms finished. Did a matte, not gloss, but a matte varnish spray to seal everything. And then last I just had to put the light up in there. Like I said, I did end up going with the red LED. You can see there, that is the finished product. Pretty happy with it. It's a fun little build. It's going to be a fun thing to throw on the table. The size of the droid in comparison to your average 25 or 28 or 32 millimeter figure is pretty large. Should scare the pants off some of the players. Now's a good time to remind you to like the video, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, share the video, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell some coworkers, just tell some random people out on the street. You never know, you might make some new friends that way. Hope you're enjoying the videos. I know I've been doing a lot of sci-fi builds, it seems like. I'm going to do some more fantasy stuff. Let's see, my next videos are going to delve back into fantasy. And there's some WizKids pre-painted Star Wars figures, just to give you an idea of scale. This thing is pretty massive, so hopefully it will be intimidating when you throw it down, even though it's just a droid. For some reason it kind of reminds me of some of those old Looney Tunes cartoons, especially with the articulated arms there. Ready to come and pull some stuff apart, demolish some things, and stuff them up there in the furnace. Well, there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, like I said. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Fortress of Filitude.